Okay, and we are live. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Crypto Hour. Today is Friday, the 30th of August. Today is going to be slightly different from other sessions. I haven't had a lot of time to prepare this. I've been really busy this week. So we'll prepare your questions. I'll go through the market report and a few bits of news that we can have a look at, and then we'll be opening the floor to questions. Okay, so have them ready now so you don't get surprised later and we don't get like moments of deep quiet. Okay, so let me go and share my where is it? Share my screen. Okay, let's refresh the calendar. Okay, summer, end of the summer, really there wasn't a lot going on this week in terms of news. As you can see, kind of the red items are very few and far between. The what stands out in the news, apart from for you guys in Australia, the CPI is ticking. It kind of is a little bit higher than expected, although it's lower than the previous month. It's still at 3.5%, which is quite high compared to a lot of other countries as well. But the other news, like on yesterday's, we get the usual unemployment numbers that didn't surprise at all. Actually, were a little bit better than expected. But the other things were the kind of the GDP figures, which are the ones that kind of like move the stock markets yesterday, which shows the US economy is still producing the goods, and it's working at a 3% increase quarter on quarter. Today, it's probably out of the week's announcement is the most important one. We have the inflation figures in the US. And this is again the PCE price index is the one that's used by the Fed really as a reference for interest rates. So it's going to be announced at before an hour before the New York Wall Street Open, and can set the scene for the day's price movement ahead. We also at the same time we have GDP figures for Canada. Now, what you might have been aware of as well yesterday was Nvidia announced the results, and although they were positive, Rego figures went at kind of like as high as expected. So Nvidia shares actually dropped after the announcement. For for next week, again, beginning of September, we have a few manufacturing figures, and we start the rate statements. So Canada will start announcing the rates on Wednesday. And then we have on Friday the non-farm employment change. Again, this is like once a month, and a big market mover, especially if the announcement is far away from the forecast. Okay, whether it's higher or lower, the unexpected always causes an immediate adjustment in prices for the stock market, for currencies, etc., etc. So so as you can see, a couple of weeks are not a lot of events that can move the market quite quickly. So we just we just carry on going ahead as normal, and we follow the same playbook that we've had in the past few months until until there is proof that things have changed. Okay, so let's have just a quick look at the job figure a little bit more in detail from yesterday. Okay. So these are the figures. So the initial jobless claims, as you can see, just a little bit lower than expected, and a couple of thousand below what was last month. And all the corresponding figures are lower than expected than expected. So like positive figures from the job market in general for the US. The only thing that is showing an increase, which is the one that I tend to look more than the others, they're kind of like just weekly figures, but the continuing jobless claims, so people that continuously are asking for support from the states are actually carry on going higher. So they are 13,000 higher than it was last month, although just below expectation. So, and we've seen kind of this number very slowly climbing higher, but in a controlled fashion, so that it doesn't rise panic in the regulator, but at the same time they are taking note of this, and this is why when Jerome Powell actually spoke, he was preparing the market for the first cut in interest rate now for since they started the hiking cycle, which is likely to come now in September. So the markets have already started adjusting to this, and a quarter of a percent cut is expected. If there was to be a bigger cut than a quarter of a percent or no cuts at all, then that would surprise the market. But the quarter of a percent is what they're expecting. Now, going on to crypto and Bitcoin, let's have a look at has anything changed over the past few days? Not much. Okay, so we're still in this big range. It goes, from since we hit the all-time high at about just short of 74,000. We've been in this range between 50 and 75, which is still significant because pretty much you see this orange line. This was the top monthly close in the previous cycle. So if we go back to a monthly rather than a like daily chart, you can see so this, we reached this in March 2021. The highest close we ever had was at 61,300. So this is where this line is, and we kept to this range now for the past 6 months. So you can see the difference from this sort of formation here to what we had in the kind of like in the times when we hit a market top, like we had in 2017, again twice in 2021. So when that happened in the past, when the market actually made a cycle top, you can see it reversed very, very quickly. So we've got an example here. 70% within the next 2 months since in 2017, which was a very violent cycle in terms of move, and this was a 2021. Where are we? 55%. Again, 2 months after the top, and again in November, 52%, again within 2 months after the top. In this cycle, instead, we are holding to the top part of this move, And as you can see, although we had a kind of the low, it touched like 33%. It's kind of like quite shallow compared to, say these previous periods. And, normally what happens is that when the market reaches a top, you got the big investors, the one that are bought really heavily into, into Bitcoin in this case, and other cryptos as well. They sell very quickly. And so this is why we get this very fast declines, because obviously they recognize that the market has reached the point where they were happy to make profits, and then they divest very quickly. Now combined to this, although we had now we are around 59, 60,000 compared to the 73, 74. We come at a time as well when the level of Bitcoin on exchanges, because obviously for Bitcoin to be sold, we need to, they need to be on an exchange rather than on a cold storage wallet. This level is actually where am I? Sorry. No, not we. Where is my previous chart? So the level, well, anyway, I will tell you rather than show you, but the level of Bitcoin on exchanges is now the lowest it's been since 2021. So that means that the supply of Bitcoin is now at very low levels, and it's almost like these things always happen before an outbreak in price and a very strong move, because if there is an event and we are coming closer to then the liquidity in the cash market being higher than it is now, because that happens when the interest rates start going down. And if the demand rises and the supply actually goes down or remains the same, that causes an upward pressure on price. And this kind of long-term chart, which we see when we zoom out from what happens every day, and Bitcoin has gone up today, it's gone down the next day, and so on. It's indicative of where the market could then go from here on. So nothing new really during this past week, as I say, or past few days in terms of what the price is doing. We are still within this range. We've had a peak into like 65,000 just about, and then we've gone down to 58, and now we're back at 60. So nothing really happened so far. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So this is where we started last Friday. We were around 60,000. Now we're about $500-600 less. So no really great moves on Ethereum instead. So the other big crypto project. So Ethereum and Bitcoin dominate in terms of volume and price. So we are still way below the levels of when the ETFs were launched, again indicated by this blue line. We've actually had a little bit of a sell-off this week. So we touched 2,800, and then we had a sell-off, and we've gone back to 2004. At the moment, we're back at 2005. Now, so this is still selling pressure from this supply, but we are starting now touching the edges of these supply. And now there isn't much here from where we have been until we get back to the 3,000. So the next push higher, I expect to then to go from where we are now, and after we overcome the 2,800 mark, I expect it to touch 3,000, probably, to test around 3,200 before there's another push lower. So that would be quite significant for where we are now already, because we're talking about 20 to 30%. So these are the kind of moves that can happen in crypto very quickly. Okay, so we're talking about 25, 30% from where we are now. I'm not talking about the low here at 2,000, but even from here, even just to get back to the levels where we were when the ETFs were launched, we're talking about 40%. This level of supply here, it's at 25%. So big potential. Obviously, crypto, whenever there's high potential for gains, there's also high potential for loss. They are always there in the background, but I think they are, at the moment, the market is stacked and getting ready for a push, which normally happens in Q4 of the year when there is the Bitcoin halving event. And obviously, Q4 will start at the beginning of October. So we're only about like a month away now from that. So not that very, very far away. And again, if we want to look at all the total. So if we want to look at the total market cap excluding Bitcoin and Ethereum, again, this is kind of like a steeper chart than we have seen in Bitcoin and Ethereum, because this is more volatile. Once you're taking, although both Bitcoin and Ethereum are still quite highly volatile compared to normal asset classes, this is what we would consider really the altcoins, which are anything else but Bitcoin and Ethereum. And this is expected to move at a higher rate in either direction. So we say in investing it's got higher beta, which means that if Bitcoins moves 1%, this will move by a multiplier of that. Okay, but the point is that it's whether it's whatever is the sign before the move is a plus or a minus, this will just react accordingly. So if it's positive, will move up higher than Bitcoin. If it is negative, will move down more than Bitcoin. So this is, if we compare this to Bitcoin. So you can see that this is fairly similar in shape, but this is moving faster. Okay, so if you can see here at the moment he hasn't really started jumping from where they were here in August of last year. It's actually Bitcoin has actually moved more than the altcoins, because the altcoin season, which is like the third phase in crypto moves, it generally comes after the Bitcoin makes a move, after the major altcoins make a move, and then everything else follows. But if we go back and so this gives maybe a better idea, which is, if we go down to maybe January. Where is it? 11th of January. Okay. So this is the effect of the ETFs in a visual way, because as you can see, normally you would expect all coins to move faster than Bitcoin. Okay, but in this case, it has been the opposite. The first period, they were at very similar rate. And now, as you can see, the effect since 11th of January, Bitcoin has gone up 35%. The altcoin market has gone up only 18%. So when the actual bull cycle is actually in full force, we'll see this jump much higher than the rate of growth of Bitcoin. And this is where a lot of potential is from now for the next 12 months, is that I believe, and I might be wrong on this, but time will tell. I believe that a portfolio of altcoins will outperform Bitcoin quite strongly from let's say beginning of October until well into the mid of next year, probably towards the end of next year. So a lot of is still to play in Bitcoin terms. And what did I have? I had something else here. And this is another thing. One of the charts from CryptoQuant. They look at on-chain analysis really, and it's interesting to see that there has been. Now we'll have a look in a second, as there has been a sell-off in Bitcoin ETFs. Okay, and that means so what we see in the blue one is the Bitcoin price, and the the green line is actually the average price that has been paid to buy the Bitcoin ETFs. So at the moment, it's so that means pretty much when price is on the green line, the average of Bitcoin ETF holders are at break even, pretty much. If they're below, it means they are at loss. If they're above, they're at a gain. So basically, the people that are sold, let's say, to make a profit, pretty much now they run out. So because everybody is roughly at entry point. But every time we have touched the average, this realized price, which is the average price that everybody bought, there has been then a push higher because people perceive that is good value. Okay, so there has been like a purchase in here, another one here, another one here, and may or may not happen again. The one thing to notice though is that in general, when things are tested in terms of price, they do tend to become weaker. So we can see that each time we have crossed the green line, we've had a deeper move into negative territory. So what could happen now? We could have at the moment we are pretty much at this break-even point. We could have a similar move to the first one we've had here, or we could have a push down that pushes down now to the next level of demand, which is around the $40,000 mark. Or there could be a pushback at any level. So this combined with the average presence of Bitcoin on exchange, which is quite limited, it means, apart from the fact that long term it's positive from a bullish point of view, but in the short term, with the smaller amount of Bitcoin that's available on exchanges to trade, it means that the moves can be more violent because a smaller number of Bitcoin being bought or sold will have a bigger percentage effect on the total held by exchanges. Okay, so that means that a smaller volume can push the prices a lot higher or lower as well. So not necessarily price is always indicative of what every holder thinks or where the price may be, but it's indicative of the people that are willing to take action, and actually putting the orders in to buy or sell. So the traders are the ones that really push the price higher or lower in the short term. The holders are the one that determine the long-term price, because they are the ones that when prices go beyond a certain level, are the ones that make the decision to actually withdraw, let's say, Bitcoin from the market, or increase the availability of Bitcoin by selling their stash. Okay, and the one thing to realize now is that 75% of the Bitcoin supply is now in the hands of long-term holders. So what is available to purchase is only like 25% that is left. Part of that doesn't even exist at the moment because it hasn't been mined yet. So it's the levels on exchanges it's about less than 2.5 million Bitcoin over I remember a maximum total of 21 million eventually. So it's not such a big percentage of the Bitcoin supply. Okay, and so if we go and have a look at the ETFs flows, let's do it in US dollars, so we can see. So we can see the the last this week we have a moment at the moment we have a negative outflow. So we have 200 million coming in on Monday. So that was Friday and Monday was some two very, very strong days. They're almost like $500 million of inflows. And then Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, we pretty much reversed at least this week's flows. So at the moment we are what 105, 230, about 300 million minus 200 is about minus 100 million in negative flows for Bitcoin. The total though is still edging closer to 18 billion, and the number I keep looking at as well is again the Grayscale total, because this is where most of the selling pressure is coming from. And so the smaller this becomes, then the least important then it becomes in terms of the effect on prices altogether. So you can see now the past 3 days we've had outflows in pretty much everywhere, but you can see that the column on the left, which is the Grayscale one, is constantly in the red, where the other ones are mostly green, with some adjustment here and there, with people moving out from one fund and depositing another one and so on. In Ethereum, instead, let's have it in dollars. Again, we have smaller. So you can see that now the outflows on the Grayscale in Ethereum have gone smaller and smaller and smaller. So this week, although they're still negative, they're all in single figures. So 10 million, 10 million, 9 million, 3 and 5. They're quite small numbers overall. And although this week has been negative, so 13, 16, say 18, about 12 million in the negative, these numbers are getting smaller compared to the past. The total effect though, since the launch of the ETFs, is still negative to about like $500 million. So the Ethereum hasn't seen the effect of the inflow of institutional funds yet, although the outflows definitely, again, outflows coming pretty much from, as you can see here, from one direction. Okay, just simply from the Grayscale. Hardly look at all the other numbers, all the other funds. If you can count the outflows in the other funds really in one hand, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in total. In total of all the other funds, where the Grayscale pretty much like every day. Okay, so you can see here the trend, these outflows becoming smaller and smaller, and now that we are pretty much almost like a almost neutral, because this week there's still been some money being taken out, okay, in general, but the total effect has been almost neutral. So what is going to happen when these histograms start being green rather than red is then that there's going to be a push towards increasing the price on the market. And going back, so where is my Ethereum? Going back to this, let me just take the Bitcoin out of it. Going back to this, you can see that Ethereum has been quite highly volatile anyway, and a lot more than Bitcoin has been. Okay, so we're talking about here a good 50% maximum drawdown since the high again there was in March, but even now we are standing still at almost like 40% drop from that high. Okay, so where is it that we started growing when Bitcoin turned around? So this level of growth was simply not Ethereum pressure, but it was Bitcoin ETFs pressure, okay, and increasing in value. So we are going to a period where probably we're going to have similar growth in Bitcoin during the last quarter. Now, on top of that, if we can put this sort of move that happened before, simply not even related to Ethereum, with some increase in flows coming from the ETFs, as people start getting more interested in investing in cryptocurrencies, then we could expect like a similar sort of move to happen, and even for me, even a bigger rate than this. Okay, because we're going to have a specific Ethereum drivers that were not there in January. So as you can see, just projecting this here, and I expect this. So this is for me is not like a really outlandish expectation. It's really conservative for me. So I would expect by the end of the year for Ethereum to be about 4,500. Okay, so again, this is no investment advice, guys. But obviously, we are 2,500 at the moment. So we are talking. This is kind of like it's bold prediction, but is a prediction that comes from not just from obviously from the past by looking at this, but it comes from expectations of two different drivers. Okay, so a bull cycle starting sometime soon, and at the same time, the ETF flows turning positive rather than negative. A couple of things I've highlighted for you. So this is for you, from my friends here in Australia. You are now kind of like number 3 in the world for the number of crypto ATM machines. So in 2022, you are about 67. Now they're about 1,200, with roughly another 1,000. They are waiting to, on the horizon. There are 200 that are just waiting for, to be rolled out, and they're just waiting for clearance from authority. And so you can say, why is it all of a sudden so interesting? And there is this great push in Australia for ATM machines. The one thing is that you can combine that to, in a way, distrust for the financial system, from the banking system. What the ATM machines allow you to do is quickly change cash into crypto, no question asked. Okay, so no KYC, no anything. You can just like move cash, so moving from the traditional system to Bitcoin in a very simple way, although it's fairly expensive. Obviously, when that, with that, we have the pushback from the authorities, because obviously now we are living pretty much in an Orwellian state, where the state wants to know everything that you do, and is worrying about things that they can't see. So there is possibility of a pushback from the authorities to make the access to this new world a little bit more difficult. But it's interesting though that it's showing Australia was a little bit back compared to other countries in terms of access to crypto. Now is moving to the forefront, which is fairly positive. And this is an article again talking about the exchange reserves. As prices hovering around 60,000, we now are moving to a period where there is less liquidity available for sale, because less people have deposited their Bitcoin on exchanges. Okay, so if we see now where we are, and where's the graph with the, oh, that's the one. So you can see although the price has stayed pretty much in a range between 60 and 70,000 for the majority of the time from March, you can see the availability of Bitcoin on exchanges. How is gone considerably lower. It's gone from over 3 million to 2.6 million right now. So it's declined by about 15% in this amount of time. Okay, so what that shows you is that there is less and less availability on exchanges for Bitcoin to get sold, and still, if we look at the behavior of whales, people with big Bitcoin portfolios, they are still accumulating Bitcoin, and they're still drawing Bitcoins away from the exchanges. So why would you move Bitcoin away from exchanges? Because you're not interested in trading it, and you are keeping it safe, and putting it into your cold storage rather than having there watching the market for for price moves that could then indicate that you're willing to sell. So that's pretty much it for today. There weren't many news apart from maybe the only thing that kind of interesting to pay attention to. There has been, as usual, SEC, was our friends. Yeah. So the OpenSea, which is the major NFT marketplace, has been issued a Wells notice. That means that basically they're under investigation for possible violation of security laws. So this is, in a way, it prepares the next move of the SEC. They might try to classify NFTs as securities. And although NFTs are just a tool that can represent security as well, we know that the majority of them are, what they considered as work of art. So OpenSea has not only decided to fight anything that the SEC might want to throw at them, but they're pledging 5 million to cover legal fees for NFT creators and developers that receive a similar notice. Because although OpenSea have got the funds to fight this in the courts, if you think about this, a single NFT creator may not be able to, because of the very, very high legal fees in the US. So this, the attitude of the SEC towards crypto hasn't changed. And now a big part of nervousness in the crypto world is to do with elections, and see what is the attitude going to be of the the winner of the elections. And this is why it's so important at the moment in listening to all the rubbish that the candidates have to communicate, because it is important. Because if even at the very least, showing a positive attitude towards crypto can then set the tone for what they're going to do once they're in power. And as far as today, we've heard Donald Trump at the moment has gone all in at least in statements. I mean, words don't cost anything, but he's gone all in favor of crypto, talking about even maybe establishing a Bitcoin reserve in the central bank. And on the other side, we've heard little from the Democrat front, and we got to remind ourselves that the Democrats at the moment are in power, and they're the ones that for the past 3 years have done nothing to stop the SEC coming down really hard on the whole crypto sector. So there is a train of thought that thinks that nothing much will happen until the elections. And we'll see. We'll see if that's the case or not. If the normal price action as we had in previous cycles follows, then there should be a move well before the election, but obviously, the election being a very important event is going to be a very volatile time around November, during as we approach and the days following the vote. But you know, it's kind of the words are cheap, so we just need to follow the market and see what you know, when the big buyers decide to step in and see what effect the election will have on price. At the moment, we are sitting at the window and you know, and still seeing these kind of waiting game. You know, they're still going on. So we're gonna have moves up and down, but nothing decisive now, which, you know, by decisive will mean a move well higher than the previous high. So from, let's say, mid 80s to maybe low 90s, or a move down to, you know, to previous levels of demand. At the moment, you know, we would have to move somewhere around there. If there is a down move, that's probably the place where things will turn. You know, maybe this is the first price where it could happen, around 43, 44. And this is this is the other one where there is the basically where the move started when we had the institutional investment. So this is where the institutional buying started, down here at around 40,000 level. So if there is a move below previous lows, that's where it's probably stopped. And if there is a move higher, that's, you know, that's all at the moment will be price discovery. So we can't really see what's going to happen. We're just going to, you know, we can only look at the past and thinking, okay, where did we go in the past once we moved about, we'll move about the previous high. Okay, so what happened then? So in the latest example, which is 2021, we are talking about, you know, the first move being 226%. Okay, since the previous high. So do we want to play this game? Have a look at it. So from the previous high, so a similar increase will take us, you know, around 200, 220. But obviously, it's, you know, it's safe to expect a lower move than this. So even we're thinking about maybe, I don't know, 150%, that would take us in the high six figures, you know, between 175 and 200,000. And I think that's a genuine expectation that we can have in this cycle. You know, anything above that would be kind of like an extreme that will need to be ridden, you know, and it's difficult to tell when a market reaches a top, but it all depends on how quickly we move when things start going above the previous side. Okay, but so this is just speculation, and what we can say, well, looking at the past, what could happen, and adjusting for as every time that the market cap rises and grows, then the market in total is going to become a little bit more stable. So you can't expect the same strong moves that happened, you know, maybe in 2017 or then in 2021. Every successive move would probably be a little bit less. With the only difference is that this time we have institutional participation that wasn't there before. So what effect this will have, I don't know. It remains to be seen. We just have to mark it as it's something that we don't know yet. But you know, this is the only thing that we have to go for it and thinking, well, that what happened. This is what happened when that institutional participation has started to show. And That was a 91% price rise. Okay, so we'll see. If we were to go back to that level, and at a time when the bull market is about to stop, I mean, this could be frankly a generational event, because even with the expectations of hitting maybe what we said before, 175, if we manage to enter at about 40,000, that will make it at 300 to 350%, which is quite sensational. And this is Bitcoin. So if Bitcoin does that, then altcoin market could be twice as much. Again, being conservative. So I think, actually, having said that, I didn't have much prepared. I've spoken for like 3/4 of an hour without stop. Apologies about that. A couple of minutes for a couple of quick questions, and then I'll need to go because I need to prepare for the other session at 9 o'clock. Anybody with questions, please? A complete silence today. Guys, are you there? Can you hear me?
Luca, there are some questions in the box.
I didn't say that. Okay, first of all, this is incorrect. I say the ETFs, the buyers or ETFs are not buying spot BTC on wallet. I don't know what you mean. Spot BTC spot BTC or spot BTC. Wherever you buy them from, they can be created. You can have new. This is why it's spot and it's not futures or any other market. So you have to buy them somewhere, either from wallets or from normally is from exchanges. This is where most of the spot ETFs use Coinbase. So these Bitcoin will be bought on Coinbase. Past cycles have all been spot holders who have been rotated out of BTC into alts with pumps the old cycle. The ETF holders are likely just to buy and hold. It's Surya, it's there's a whole different now, because what the ETFs are doing are bringing new buyers into the market. Now, it's not necessarily that you're saying that Bitcoin would be sold, and obviously it does happen, but it's not necessarily that the Bitcoin would be sold and diverted into the alt market. It's just like the market knowing that there is what is called there is buying pressure into the whole crypto market, and then the trust starts coming into the equation, because then the people feel confident on investing their money, expecting a positive outcome. And it's all about that. It's all about momentum in crypto. When it's like new technologies, momentum has got a lot to do with it, because everybody kind of sits on their hands until there is proof that a new barrier has been broken. And when that happens, then there is like the floodgates open. This is what happened in the past. Dinesh, if you want to read about fair value gap, just Google it. We haven't got time to go through it, but it's like a technical analysis tool that can be used. I don't particularly use it. I know what it is, but if you can ask me maybe next week, we can discuss it. But there are many reasons, the ones that, going back to Surya's question, there are many drivers that will create a bull cycle, and some of them are technical and some of them are related to the number of participants in the markets. What we have seen this year, which has made things different, is that there has been a much wider access to the crypto market than there has ever been, simply because there's more. One, it's maturing as a market, and two, because now we have the ETFs that are acting in the spot world for both Bitcoin and Ethereum. So we'll have a direct effect on price instead of just like the futures ETF, which just allows, betting on the price difference, but doesn't have any direct impact on the spot market. So I will close the call here and transfer for those of you for the AIW member. I'll see you on the other Zoom link, so we can do a session in about 10 minutes. Jonathan will do a remind you that Jonathan now has moved the main session on a Monday evening for his Cardano session, but he also does one on a quick informal session on a Friday after 10 o'clock. So Jonathan, if you don't mind, just for like 5 seconds to again post the link. I think most of you already know it anyway. I know they're old hands at this, but if you don't, then I don't have the link with me. I should have it really, but okay, Jonathan seems to be otherwise engaged. So just I remind you to if you're interested in knowing what really happens in a blockchain, then follow that, and we'll have probably I'll have a chat with Jonathan later, and we'll probably have another test session next week where we demonstrate different things that you can do on the blockchain, as opposed to just buying and selling tokens just for gain. There are many things that now we can use the blockchain for, and the blockchain they're going to be relevant for in the future. Okay, so have a great weekend, everyone, and that's the just at the last second there we have this Jonathan's link there. Fluid7.com, it's on the chat box. And I'll say have a great weekend, and if I don't see you in 10 minutes, then I will see you next week. All right, goodbye everyone, and